Okay, going live according to StreamYard. I'm still not 100% convinced because it's been having problems lately. So people may not be seeing the live stream here and now. But if you're watching it back later, you do get to watch it back later because that's the other thing I discovered the other day when the streamcast didn't go live for about 3 minutes when the video was ready for playback on YouTube. The missing 3 minutes was actually there, so that's a plus. So I don't see anyone live yet. So yeah, yet again, I don't know if the live thing is actually working, but you can watch it back later. Oh, Miss Foxification says I am live, so that is a plus. It's it's a bit weird that I'm not actually sure anymore. And hello to you too, Musical Aviator. Good to see you. And hopefully we have a fun-packed evening. I don't know if Aidsy is going to be joining us because I have not heard from him since Tuesday night. Left Wing Dog Suck. Hello, how are you? What's up is a relative position. Some things are only up in comparison to things that are down, but other things that are further up, those things that are up may actually look down. That's how I choose to answer on this fine evening. It's a bit of a weird day in Melbourne today. Got up to 29 Celsius, which is very warm for early spring. But then in the late afternoon, it dropped off quite sharp. I'm just looking at so it's only 16 now, and it's not meant to get over about 15 tomorrow. So temperature's going to drop overnight, and it is not that likely to get much warmer, but then warming up again. So it's very volatile. It's typical Melbourne spring weather. The temperature is going to be up and down like a yo-yo. And as you say, Musical Aviator, the ground is up compared to an underground cave. Left-wing dogs. Have I heard about Bill Maher's latest stupid thing? Oh, Bill Maher's a fucking piece of shit. He's just fucking garbage. And I always find it hilarious because he trumpets himself as, I don't know, left-wing or progressive, certainly anti-Republican. So the right-wingers think if they attack Bill Maher, they're going to upset people on the left, and everyone I know on the left is going, yeah, fuck him up. Yeah, get his show cancelled. Fucking get him out of public life. The guy's fucking appalling. He is just a piece of shit. And he's so slimy. It's the only way I can think to express how slimy I find him is if you were casting a movie and you had a character who was meant to be a slimy, creepy, serial sex offender, and you cast Bill Maher in the role. I go, oh, that's a bit on the nose. It's a bit bloody obvious, isn't it? Put someone in who has to act. You know, you don't just put someone in a role that is them. I mean, he's just, oh God, he's just a fucking creep. And what a raging narcissist. And for someone like me who is also obviously narcissistic because you don't do the sorts of things I do with putting yourself out there on interwebs unless you're quite narcissistic. But even I find Bill Maher intolerably narcissistic. There you go, Lefty. He actually did a movie called Tomcats where he was an asshole. So that's some typecasting for you right there. Oh, you do raise a good point, this Foxification. Online discourse is just likely to get worse and more toxic and more abusive in the lead up to the US presidential elections in 2020. I don't see civility breaking out anytime soon. It's kind of funny. Like I always joke about, there's always these saddos who seem to wait around for me to go live just so they can do a thumbs down or something. But it's weird. I'd almost welcome them. Like I haven't had actual trolls in the chat for ages. On one level, I'd almost welcome them. At least I am more than happy to actually discuss a topic with someone who disagrees with me. I just don't have any time for wankers and boring people. Like, if all someone's going to do is spout cliche talking points and or be abusive, I just have no interest in wasting any time on them, so I don't. Let's all admit, it's a little bit of fun when I give him enough rope to hang himself and then just tear into it. That's fine. Left wing, do you think Trump will be gone by the end of the month? No, I don't think Trump is going to go unless he resigns or drops dead. Maybe he'll drop dead from the stress. The most likely course of events is, so the Democrats have their impeachment investigation now. They are likely to find strong evidence of something that constitutes high crimes and misdemeanors, which is the qualifying offense for impeaching, and then they are likely to pass an impeachment vote. But how the system works then is there's a trial in the Senate, and then there's a vote, and a vote would almost definitely go along party lines. Even if it didn't strictly go along party lines, the vote has to be 2/3 in favor of removal from office for him to go. And unless something absolutely astoundingly egregious is uncovered by the investigation, the majority of the Republicans will just vote along party lines. So he's not getting removed. The odds are massively stacked against him being removed from office. But if they can actually show compelling evidence that he did commit serious crimes, it's worth going through the impeachment procedure. Do I have any right-wing views, like modern right-wing views? Probably depends who you ask. I certainly have managed to piss off people who sort of more holier than thou lefty than me. And again, it's going to really depend on the person, because it's like, I'm certainly not a revolutionary. I'm not the type who thinks there is actually going to be something approaching a revolution that changes things around. I think the only changes we are likely to see are incremental political and economic changes. They're required, or we're all going to hell. Their changes, fairly significant changes, are required, or the whole system's going to collapse and we're all going to hell. I do believe it varies from place to place. I think America's political system is just fucked. Australia's is a bit better. England's is a bit better. It depends how you run your elections. But yeah, what we've seen for the last 20, 30 years of just crony capitalism, it's criminal and it's unsustainable. The way that the wealthy have been stealing resources from the less well off And yes, I'm radical enough that I don't think that language is hyperbole. The reason we've got all these billionaires is they have literally stolen the labor from people who are doing the work. They are literal fucking criminals and they need to be punished. But whether that ever happens is another thing. But the disparity between the income of the top handful of people and, the 90% of the world is ridiculous and unsustainable. And even just historically, there's never been this sort of disparity in wealth that hasn't resulted in radical change, either radical systemic change or actual revolutions, which, unfortunately is blood in the streets type of stuff, which would be super nice if we could avoid, quite honestly. If there's a recession in Australia, do I think there'll be disability and New Start in this country? The current government have made it extremely clear they are going to wage extreme class warfare, and they are going to have the most vicious attacks for the most vulnerable, and that's people who are on support payments, whether it's for unemployment, disability, sickness benefits, or pension. That is who this government is going to attack first, who they are currently attacking, and then we're likely to get some fight back. And I think we are probably not far off some very large-scale industrial action, which we haven't. Well, we have had at the state level. I remember last time the Conservatives were in control in Victoria, and they managed to fuck everything up. And they pissed off the teachers, and they pissed off the ambulance drivers, and they pissed off the cops. And so they were fighting industrial relations battles on multiple fronts. And they were always going to lose. If you just pissed one group off, you might get away with it. But groups that have public sympathies, like cops, like ambulance drivers, like teachers, if you've pissed them all off, it's really obvious who the problem is. And that's one of the reasons why they got punished at the ballot box. Ha! Left and door. So I think Labor's going to win cuts for welfare. The current Labor opposition is a pile of shit. I have nothing but contempt for them. They are going to have to do a fuckload of work for me to have anything but contempt for them. I've literally never felt like this about a Labor opposition. Like, this shit is fucking useless. Like, they managed to fuck up the last election that almost no one thought they could fuck up. Because they didn't go in hard enough. They didn't have a strong enough message. They didn't put forward a compelling enough case. They believed what all the surveys were saying, that they could just fall across the line by not being the Liberal Party. And that was a shit strategy. And it ended up, against the odds, not working for them. And their public pronouncements since the election have been so much worse. And they're just like, they've explicitly said, we're just going to be Liberal Party light. We're going to actually suck up to the billionaires and suck up to big business. And it's like, get fucked. What is that? I wonder if I should message Aidsy. So when I don't hear from him, he's normally not well. Left-wing dogs. Do I think they can block Liberal extreme? No, they don't have the numbers to block extreme shit from the Liberals. And they also don't have the fucking spine. They've got nothing, quite honestly. They're just shit. There has in the past been oppositions in worse positions, like being a smaller minority in opposition, and I haven't fucking hated them, because they've fought the good fight. Albanese, who, was like, he's traditionally a real sort of rowdy left winger, and he's just gone for this weakest pitch. It's like they took literally the opposite message from the last election to what they should have. I was even saying it in the lead up. I was like the vast majority of people quite convinced they were going to win the election. But I did say it shits me that Shorten was being a weak as piss leader and had contributed virtually nothing more compelling than, I'm not that bloke. And that was cynical and shitty, and I really didn't like it. Like, I wanted him to stand for something, and they were so scared of rocking the boat they didn't. And so no one had a really compelling reason to vote for them. And then it seems, like the non-stop propaganda from Murdoch media actually worked against the odds. And so I feel somewhat vindicated that I did say their strategy in the lead up to the election was shit and I hated it. And they took exactly the wrong lesson. They've gone, we were too radical. And they weren't even mildly radical. It was like, the Murdoch media said we were too radical and people believed them. We should have even less in the way of policies. We should just be Liberal Party light. It's like, no, you fucking losers. You need to stand for something. You need to have a strong platform. You need to commit, and you need to fucking inspire people, not this insipid bullshit that they're doing. Left-wing dogs trying to be positive. All the evil shit will be gone one day. Everything is cyclical. The single truest statement ever made is, this too shall pass. And there's a few stories about it from antiquity. And I think there was a rumor, there's one like, Julius Caesar had a thing that when he came back to Rome from a victorious campaign, and he's like on a chariot waving to the adoring crowds and being adored, there was a slave who was paid to stand just behind him and whisper in his ear, this too shall pass. It is an important thing to remember. Nothing is forever. If something really bad is happening to you, this too shall pass. It's not going to be like that forever. It might get worse. But then when things are really good, when you've got what you want, you need to understand this too shall pass, which for me, that can seem really negative. That can seem really gloomy and awful. But for me, it's a positive thing, acknowledging you can't control events. Things are going to change. This too shall pass. If you are happy now and things are going your way now, you aren't going to be happy forever. At some point, something will go against you. Things are going bad. They're not going to be bad forever. It's like, is an analogy Stephen Fry did, talking to someone about depression, and when you can't see an end to a depressive episode, or you've been suffering from depression for years and you can't imagine anything ever being different. And he said it is like the weather, like gloomy, sad, rainy days. Sometimes that seems to last forever, and it's real. That's the thing. When it's gloomy, sad, depressing weather, important things to acknowledge is that is real and it is beyond your control. But no matter how much it doesn't seem like it at a given moment, the sun will shine again. And each shitty day you get through gets you one day closer to the next good day. And you can't predict things are going to be shit, but only for another week, or only for another month, or only for another year, and then everything will be better. You can't predict that. You can't predict when change comes. Same if things are going well, you can't say it will always be like this, because things change. No matter what we're talking about, things change. And good evening to you, Safa. That's my big thing. If we can talk to you, what you believe. You think it is like Dutton and the rest will be gone by the end of the 20s. Yeah, they'll just be replaced by other morons. Here's the thing. I've been around long enough to have seen this cycle multiple times. Like, the boomers are fucking notorious. Fucking hippie boomers in the 60s with their peace, love, and mung beans are all like, little change, man. You know, everything will be beautiful. All these old people, they're going to die, man. And then everything will be beautiful. And guess what? The boomers turned into a bunch of nasty, conservative, old fucks. Every generation has horrible people. I think there's you could do a curve, like a line of best fit, like how good is the world? How good are people? And it's like, oh, pretty good. Oh, fuck, good, fuck. And it's there's lots of up and downs, and sometimes the downs go a long way down, and like the dark ages. But again, this is me being optimistic. I believe if you do the maths thing, do a line of best fit, see the trend. The trend line is up into things improving, and it might be slow, and it might be inconsistent, and the setbacks might be many, but I do believe that on a long enough timeline, things are improving for pretty much everyone. It just doesn't seem like that sometimes. It's a fun thing to explore. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about it's a podcast called Behind the Bastards, and he talks about the greatest bastards in history and researches them and tells you stuff about them you might not know. And one thing he often says is it's not really completely legitimate to judge people from the past by the standards of today, because the standards were simply different. By our standards, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, someone only had to be mildly above an arsehole to appear to be a paragon of virtue. In eras where slavery or extreme segregation was a thing, women having no rights at all, people doing a little bit positive, seemed like saints for the time, and women do. But they put an interesting mind experiment is what will future generations look back at us and go, what the fuck were they thinking? And I don't mean, like, obviously you can point to Trump and his supporters, but today I look at them and go, oh my God, those people are horrible fucking garbage. But I mean progressive people today. When people in the future look at progressive people today, what will they see and go, oh, what the fuck were you? How could you have done that? How could you have possibly not seen how deeply morally evil that is? Like I said, in the past, that was things like slavery, subjugation of women, mistreatment of minorities, and whatnot. Stuff that was absolutely mainstream. But we look back and go, oh, what the fuck? And I think one of the big ones is going to be meat eating. I think in the future, people will not be able to conceive of the amount of resources we wasted on meat farming, the cruelty that the animals that are farmed for meat suffered, like the utter barbarity of what happens to animals going to slaughter. I say this as a meat eater. I can actually see in the future, like, I think at best now meat eating is morally ambiguous, but I'm quite convinced in the future, people will just look at the meat industry, and in some countries, and some examples of it are worse than others, but I think in the future they will look at the meat industry and just go, what the fuck? What the fuck were you? How could you do that? How could you destroy your own environment to do that? How could you torture those fucking animals to do that? How could you damage your own health that way? I think that's a big one. People in the future will look back at us and go, what the fuck were you thinking? So for what will happen to burgers, synthetic meats. In fact, we might even end up with lab-grown meat. I think the majority of synthetic meats now are plant-based proteins, but there is, of course, the experiments to grow things from a cellular level in a lab, and I think there's been some distribution of lab-grown meat. But yeah, we're going to eat bugs. Everything else is going to die anyway. We're about to see another mass extinction of even ordinary animals. Forget the exotic animals. All the exotic animals will be gone, but even ordinary animals will die out. We're going to be eating bugs and plankton because we won't be able to produce sufficient quantities of protein any other way. And environmental degradation will be a big thing as well. So I predict a future of bugs and plankton. But again, you can prepare both of those things in ways that, it doesn't look like bugs or plankton. Everything talks about, we have a depressing future. We have, this is really fatalistic, but the chances of us not experiencing significant catastrophes in the next 100 to 200 years are vanishingly close to zero. Like, there is literally almost no chance that we aren't going to face catastrophe. And people trying really desperate things when it's too late. Because the knock-on effect of things, once sea levels rise, drought is the norm rather than the rarity. And when you've got billions of people with no food, once, we get to millions of brown people dying, that's when the oligarchs will panic. And they're based on available evidence. There will be no serious action until millions of people die, and it'll be too late. And a whole series of incredibly desperate moves will be made. In the next year, population centers all over the world, including Australia, are going to run out of water. It's like virtually all of inland New South Wales and Queensland are going to run out, and I mean run out of water. And the knock-on effects of that, the collapse of farming, the collapse of industry, you think a recession's a problem. This is a fucking dust bowl leading into depression material. There's major cities in parts of Africa, parts of Asia, parts of the Indian subcontinent that are all going to run out of water next year. The only thing that can avert that is, basically two things. One would be a complete turnaround in rainfall, which nobody predicts. It's possible, could get just mind-blowingly super duper duper lucky, and could get even average rainfall is a long shot. Average rainfall would just be keeping just barely functional. What we need is basically 5 years worth of rain to fall in 1 year, and that simply isn't going to happen. The only other thing that could work is basically moving to a war footing, like doing massive public works to upgrade sewage treatment factories to turn waste back into drinkable water. Desalination's a terrible fucking idea. They did build a desalination plant here in Melbourne, but that's just going to kill the ocean if you do that. Need to process sewage back into drinkable water, which is a known technology. You'd have to have this massive mobilization to build the infrastructure to do that, but that's virtually the only chance. You have to treat it like this is like I said, you're on a war footing. The way Europe and America changed their industries close to overnight to actually deal with World War II, we're going to have to do that to deal with climate catastrophes. It's awful. Yes, Fox, you are right. Climate change is a globalist hoax. It's it's quite terrifying that there are still people who deny the incredibly obvious. That means Fox, because you say Chennai in India, 9 million people in that city, and they're trucking water in, and that's not sustainable. Trucking water in isn't sustainable. And Joburg in South Africa, I think they narrowly avoided day zero last year, but will almost inevitably hit it next year. Like, again, major cities with no water. And then the dominoes start falling. Like when all the food runs out, all the water runs out, refugees in the millions, which then turns into the tens of millions, desperately mobilizing, moving, migrating, and countries panicking. Oh my God, do you think America's bad with us and Australia is bad with asylum seekers now, when actual millions upon millions of people are moving across Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Americas in desperation? It's not going to be pretty. It is not going to be pretty. Wow, I want to talk about something less depressing. I'm going to see if AIDS's about. What are you up to? Yes, maybe I should open my package. Did I mention I had a package? Yes, Music Elevator. I need to watch Mad Max Fury Road again, as it is an educational documentary to teach you what you will have to do to survive. I got a package. So it's an Amazon package. Might actually be good. Like, it might not be weird religious stuff. How does one open this? The outside doesn't tell me who it's from. It came from Alexandria in New South Wales. Okay. I can't see how to open this. Maybe I need to get a pair of scissors. Is there a pair of scissors anywhere? In the kitchen, there should be some scissors in here. Okay. Oh, yes. I think I got scissors just here. All right. Scissors just here. Right. So my mystery package. Got to cheer things up. This might be good. Or even if it's just another weird religious tract. Might be fun for it. Okay. Oh my gosh. Nice. Zicard, who sent me this? Trump cards. Oh my gosh. Catherine, all these drought talk made you not have a shower. Well, the bloody restrictions in places like Dubbo are going to get pretty extreme. I grew up in Dubbo, and we had a very bad drought in the late 70s, early 80s, where the dam went down to, certainly it was under 20%. I think it was under 10%. Now the dam's under 5%, which is not good. So this beautiful shiny gold box is for a game called Trumped Up Cards. World's biggest deck. Okay, I have to work out what this is a game. Democracy isn't. I'm going to have a party and play this game. Trumped Up Cards, the world's biggest deck. I don't know who this is from. I hope whoever... So, okay. Who wants to know the rules for Trumped Up Cards? Fox Fate, we want a mystery or Halloween cocktail. I actually had an idea for a cocktail. Left-wing dogs, I think immigration's the least of our fucking worries, honestly. Economically, immigration is a good thing, but we have a couple of critical problems. Nothing to do. Okay, the official rules. All players thoroughly sanitize their hands, then pledge their loyalty to Trumped Up Cards, the world's biggest deck, by raising their right hand and saying, "Believe me, folks, this deck is so huge, you won't believe it. People all over the world are talking about it." Then each player draws 10 very clean white cards. The player with the greatest net worth begins as the card evaluating officer, the CEO. CEO must say, "I'm really rich," and make a dismissive hand gesture. Then the CEO selects a fantastic blue card from the top of the deck and reads the text out loud. Each player chooses a white card that best answers or completes the blue card, then passes it face down. Oh, so this is Cards Against Humanity. This is a knockoff of Cards Against Humanity. Okay, so okay. Wow, there are a lot of cards in here. Fox, you think, yeah, you always want me to put absinthe in cocktails, and I have to admit, I do like absinthe in cocktails. This is a huge deck, and it needs to be shuffled because I just noticed there's a bunch of the same cards together, and it is too big to shuffle. I'm going to have to shuffle. Okay, so, okay, there's the white cards. All right, I'm going to shuffle these. Oh, no, actually, I won't. There was something else. So it's basically Cards Against Humanity. So, so it's like, what makes Trump so appealing to female apprentice contestants? All right, I'm going to say pick 5 of these. Which one would be the best? Possible answers to what makes Trump so appealing to female apprentice contests: leather toilet seats, high energy infidelity, crying baby, impeaching the View, Mitt Romney on his knees playing to his Dark Lord Trump, an honorary doctorate from Trump University. Maybe an honorary doctorate from Trump University. And you know, another one is like, when Fred Trump died in 1999, he left Donald more than 60 million plus tanning beds that double as homeless shelters. I like that. Well-behaved anchor babies, hearty Donald Trump Jr. Streets, business casual breast pumping, America's Wounded Trade Warriors, new TV show called So You Think You Can Mass Deport, cold press nectar of Trump, white fright. I think the answer to that, Fred Trump, Donald's dad, left him tanning beds that double as homeless shelters. Dottie, hello. Yeah, I'm going to have a party just to play this game, Trump Cards, which is basically Cards Against Humanity themed with Donald Trump, which I don't know. It feels a bit like laugh or you'll cry type stuff. I think that's what it is. It's like if we don't laugh at the horror that is Trump, we'll cry. But I wish I knew who sent this. I really need to thank them because it's pretty goddamn cool. Might even do it as a video. Get some people to come over and play this and make it a video. It's pretty cool. Left Wing Talks, where's Aidsy tonight? I don't know. I actually did text him a little while ago and haven't heard back. He was a little bit under the weather on Tuesday night. I know he's had a change in medication recently, which is often a challenge trying to find the equilibrium. And I don't think he quite had it. And I think he'd been suffering a little bit of sleep deprivation as well. And the poor boy, he soldiers on so much. Like, he really gives it a red hot go. Despite being in terrible pain, despite probably having sleep deprivation, and despite, being up and down like a yo-yo because of medication, he gives it a red hot go. He really soldiers on. But the fact I haven't heard from him at all since Tuesday night, and he hasn't replied to that text, makes me think he could be really out of it. Do I think we should let another city like Adelaide take immigration? Well, for a start, I don't think Melbourne and Sydney infrastructure's at its limits. I think we just need proper investment. There are merits to decentralizing immigration because in the smaller cities and even country towns, population shrinkage is a big issue. And there certainly is merit to maybe have special programs to make it easier for people to resettle here if they settle in a regional area, like outside of the major cities. There is a lot to be said for that. It's a complex issue. It just made me think of something. I work in IT as a contractor, so I work all sorts of places, big companies, small companies, banks, energy companies, government, like federal government and state government and local government. Worked in all of these. And I did work for state government a few years ago. The biggest department in the Victorian state public service is, what's its name? Human Services. It's an absurdly broad category. Like, it actually should be broken up, in my opinion, because it covers everything. It covers health, it covers migration, it covers veterans affairs. It covers just an absurd amount of completely unrelated things. But the thing I worked on was a website that was for skilled migration to Victoria. And there were two ways to improve your chances of getting a visa to move here. One is to have a skill in a particular area that was underrepresented. In other words, there were more jobs than there were people to fill them, particular skilled labor in Victoria. The other one was a willingness to resettle in a regional area. And there were these testimonial videos from people who'd resettled, and one that I swear really made me laugh was this white South African couple who'd relocated to a town in country Victoria, and they'd opened a bakery, and it was all going very well. And they were giving their testimony, and going, my goodness, it's like things were so bad in South Africa. The crime was so bad. It was very hard to live. Didn't have much hope for the future. But then we came here, and it's beautiful. The people here are so lovely, and there's no crime. And it's just like just barely under the surface, the barely concealed subtext in why this couple liked this country town. Again, everyone's white. There's no cafes at all. It's fantastic. It was so obvious that was a huge draw card for them. They're using all this code about the amount of crime in South Africa, and we don't have the crime here. The people here, they're so lovely. I just love seeing the people here. I was just waiting for you to say everyone's just white. I can get days without seeing a cafe, and it was so obvious that was the reason this dude really liked this country town he'd resettled in. Hey, more power than him. He became a vibrant part of the community. But that's probably the second funniest thing I saw in a government department. The funniest was definitely when they legalized sex work in Victoria. They legalized brothels. There's a very specific type of full-service sex work that was made legal in Victoria, but it was legalized, not decriminalized. And a lot of people don't understand how different those two terms are. If it's decriminalized, it's not a criminal offense, and you can do it and not get hassled by the pigs. If it's legalized, that means a legal framework has been set up within which you need to operate. So it's regulated, and is regulated by public servants. And so they had to draw up a set of regulations about, okay, if we're making sex work legal, it's legal within these parameters. And I just remember the guy at this consultancy I was working with, he just couldn't stop laughing. He was shrieking. It's basically, if you want a funny read, you want acceptable sex acts as written by a public servant, and just the public servant trying to explain how you can't do the pee-pee and the poo-poo. And the guy whose job it was, because he was, he had the legislation and he had to put it on a website, and he was just in hysterics. He was just the way they worded what was a legal act and what was an illegal act, and trying to just say it in public servant speak. It provided quite a bit of mirth in the office. And that's just the thing. Public servant speak can be funny or weird at the best of times, but when a public servant is actually trying to describe sex acts in a concise enough way that they can define what's legal and what isn't. I'll see if I can find it actually. Victorian legislation. The Disorderly Houses Act in 1943. Gosh, that's the old rules. If an illegal brothel was a disorderly house. Here we go. Sex work from Consumer Affairs in Victoria. Public health. Regulators. See if I can find the nitty-gritty. Yes, well, that's not funny. They're saying what's actually illegal, sexual slavery, which is when you got someone to work by threatening, unlawfully detaining, engaging in fraud, or imposing debt on someone with the purpose of forcing them into sexual services. Yes, you should get a jail term for that. Fuck that. It's the difference between sex work and sex trafficking or sex slavery. Oh, but where's the stuff where they describe you can do this, but you can't do that? Your obligations, running your business. Advertising, licensee. Ooh, occupational health and safety and cleaning. That must be a good job. No. I want to tell you what made. I remember what made this guy laugh so much was the description of what sex acts are legal and what aren't. Table of forms, business rights. Then finally, subscribe to our small business newsletter. That's a nice touch. That's a nice touch after everything else. Subscribe to the small business newsletter. Because that's what you are. If you run a legal brothel in Victoria, you're a small business operator. Yeah, this is why it's funny, because I know there's this mental block. A lot of people who regard themselves as really progressive, really open-minded, and whatnot, have a real mental block when it comes to sex work, and that's in all its varieties, from stripping to cam performers to porn to full service brothel work or escort work. Some people just have this mental block where they cannot conceive of someone doing that voluntarily, because they just go, it's basically the mentality is, I couldn't do it. I think it's awful. I'm sure exploitation exists. Therefore, I'm sure everyone who does sex work is suffering some form of exploitation. And of course, exploitation exists. Workers are exploited in every industry. I mean, for fuck's sake, there's reports coming out that basically every type of employer in Australia has been found guilty of stealing wages from employees, not paying employees award wages, not paying people what they owed. And they fucking know when they're not doing it, because they have to make a conscious effort to not pay people properly. And this has crossed every industry, from food service to convenience stores to retail stores, hospitality, Bunnings. Is basically every industry in Australia has been shown to have employers who are stealing from their employees. They're exploiting their employees. So yes, exploitation of employees happens everywhere. But yeah, it's kind of funny the people who can't get around the mental block with sex work. And it's very prevalent in places like America, where, except for incredibly specific circumstances, full service sex work is illegal. You get the ranches in Nevada, and I'm not sure what other states have weird loopholes about sex work, but it's mostly illegal. And you get people who are on the left who are real Puritans about it, because again, they do not consult with sex workers about what they want, what they don't listen to me. I don't have any experience. I'm just literally going off, what I've read and what I've heard from people who are sex workers. It's And that's where you get the term SWERF, the sex worker excluding radical feminists, the ones who actually refuse to have a discourse with sex workers. They say, no, by definition, you're exploited. By definition, you're not able to rationally defend your position because you are an exploited person. So therefore, I will not listen to you. And that's a really seductive way to think. And I will admit to having been guilty of that myself in the past. And yeah, Fox, you're right. TERFs and SWERFs are almost always the same people. TERFs is trans excluding rad femmes. And that's what they called themselves. They called themselves the radical feminists. This is where you do get really fringe people who say things like all men are rapists, and they get particularly angry at trans women. And again, I'm old enough to have seen the sort of orthodoxy from the 80s in progressive sexual identity groups. And yeah, as recently as the 80s, transgenderism was very poorly understood, like very poorly understood. And the common view of enlightened people is it was just like drag. And a lot of women found drag shows really insulting and demeaning, and not without cause, because it was a lot of drag shows in the day. You could make a very compelling case that this is just taking some ridiculous stereotype idea of woman and mocking it. And so drag shows were often very unpopular with feminists. It was like the second wave feminists in the 80s. And trans women were regarded as just drag queens. It wasn't taken seriously at all. It was very poorly understood, both biologically and psychologically, as recently as the 80s. Now we know a lot more. We know it is nowhere near as simple as the SWERFs like to say it is. And basically, human existence is a very complicated thing. It's complicated by genetics and biology. It's complicated by environment, and it's complicated by society. And anyone who pretends it's not complicated is full of shit. Anyone who goes, no, it's this and it's this and that's it. And then you can just literally, no matter what their arguing point is, if they say socially and culturally it's this, and it's trivially easy to bring out social and cultural examples that completely contradict that, from throughout human history, and not just recent stuff, from all through history, from all different cultures. And they go, oh, it's biological, it's XX chromosome, XY, and it isn't. Again, you talk to an actual up-to-date biologist who understands genetics, and they'll go, oh, no, it's not that simple. No, there are genetic variations, there are chromosomal variations, there are physical attribute variations. You get intersex people, and intersex people can be that's a wide spectrum. That can be someone who is intersex at a chromosomal level. Like outwardly, physically, the person may appear to be a particular gender, but they're quite different at a chromosomal level. And of course, it goes all the way through to physical differences, as in people born with both sets of genitalia or partial forms, sometimes fully formed, sometimes partially formed. And so anyone who wants to say, oh, biological determinism, they're simply wrong. It's like their understanding of biology and genetics hasn't advanced past like high school levels, where I hate to tell you folks, but no matter what you're studying at school, whether it's history or geography or politics or language or science or mathematics, whatever it is, they've dumbed it the fuck down for school, okay? You don't learn everything at school. You learn what people think you can handle, rightly or wrongly. Sometimes I think the limitations placed on school education very wrong-headed. But, you know, that's the way it is. But, and of course, that pendulum swings back and forth about what's included in school curriculums and what isn't as well. But yeah, someone who's going like, no, I learned it. I read a book. I did that. And you know, an actual geneticist system, okay, it doesn't work like that. No, it's not that simple. You may have been taught that simply or read something that expressed it that simply. That is not the entire story. That's like the beginning of the story, and it goes way beyond that. But it's basically, there is not a single argument against trans people that can't be shot down fairly easily. And all the arguments end up coming back to is they make me angry. And they do it for different reasons. Some people are just very socially conservative, and they really do not like their traditional conservative ideas of how people work being challenged. They're wrong. It doesn't matter that they don't like it. The fact they don't like it is neither here nor there. It just, you know, it's not there. And it's just, and sometimes they're socially conservative. Sometimes it's people just feel different things about gender identity. And it's like, well, you know, sometimes you're just not always right. Do you think our trains are full? I think we should just have better infrastructure. I think we should, well, actually, no, we shouldn't stop spending money. We should maintain existing roads, but we don't need new roads. And we are fortunately getting a fairly major bit of infrastructure development in Melbourne. But we need better planning in our cities. We don't necessarily need less people in our cities, but we need better planning and more longer-term thinking. Yes, Miss Fluxation, that's another fun one. The people are getting psychotic, and they're mostly focusing on Greta Thunberg as a climate change activist. But there are other children from around the world who are championing the cause as well. And what was the arguments against them are so fucking ridiculous. Go, I don't want to listen to a child. A child shouldn't dictate policy. No, a child shouldn't dictate policy. And that's not really what she's trying to do. She's saying, listen to the fucking scientists, you assholes. And just the gross hypocrisy of people saying, I don't want a child to tell me what to do. I want someone who knows what they're talking about. What, you mean the scientists who've studied what's happening for decades and have been warning us for decades about what... No? It's like, no, you just don't want to be challenged. And what Greta Thunberg is she's a figurehead. She is mobilizing and inspiring people. She does not want to lead. She is just saying, hey, wake the fuck up. This is of critical importance. And she's not saying, listen to me and let me set policy. She's saying, listen to the fucking scientists. Ugh. Oh, wow. Where were you, Music Elevator? A train stopped at 3:40 because a truck got stuck under the bridge. Oh, is that the Montague Street Bridge. Are people still doing that? They're dumb as hell. I got to find that, because if that's what it is, let me see. Montague Street Bridge. Did that happen? Yeah. Oh, no, it's on Flinders Street. Okay. What the heck? What the heck? Truck crashes into railway bridge on Flinders Street. Damn, I must have just missed that, because I went past there. Wow. Brought down overhead power lines for the tram network. What's he done? What a dipshit. I can't even work out. Okay, look, I can share this. I'm going to share it. Okay. Wait, share screen. Share my Chrome tab. Share, look, I'm going to watch again, bring up. I can't even work out what it did. Can you work out what it did? It just suddenly goes up on one side. What's it doing? What did it do? Did it get wedged? Is that what happened? That just looks really weird. I like the vehicles kind of going past it. The vehicles going past it like, whoops. Oh, geez, that's not good. Zing. Level more prepared for the first 50-degree days. That's going to happen places a long way away from me. But there will be places in Australia that start experiencing 50-degree days. I think virtually the only places that experience that now are like Death Valley in the US and some parts in the Middle East, like around Saudi Arabia, that area, and the desert. But there will be places, in fact, sparsely populated, but populated places in Australia that start to experience 50 degrees, which, fun fact, is too hot for humans to survive. Like, people will start to die just from heat stroke. And I'm with you, Musical Aviator. I'm not even really prepared for 35 degrees days, but they're coming real soon. 30-degree days this week. It was just like very early spring to be getting weather that hot. Absurdly hot for this. This is going to be a fucked summer. It's going to be long and hot. We're going to have out of control bushfires. Like I said, before the end of next year, huge areas of inland New South Wales and Queensland are going to run out of water. It's going to be a fucking disaster. I don't know how much longer the fucking Conservatives can continue to straight up lie about climate change being an existential threat to us, like a critical threat to our continued existence. God, we just need someone who's really good at delivering the message. Yeah, so if I remember that, got to 46 in Albury. A lot, and Melbourne will get way into the 40s. A lot of populated areas will get 45 Celsius and above this summer. You know, scientists reckon Melbourne and Sydney soon could get 50 degrees. I think that's possible in the outer suburbs in particular, where it gets hotter. I think that's distinctly possible. But we will get major population centres getting 45 degrees plus this summer, I reckon. That's my hot take, for literal hot take for the summer, that we're going to get, like Sydney and Melbourne, capital cities, at least some of the capital cities or fringe areas of the capital cities will pass 45 Celsius this summer, which will suck. Let's think. Hey, look, halfway mark. Past halfway. I was going to make a the idea I had for a cocktail is the thing I said on Twitter, as a local comedian Nick Nevin said he just discovered someone had a cocktail called the Tequila Mockingbird, which he loved as a literary reference. And he said someone needs to do a Catcher in the Rye whiskey. And of course, there are a range of cocktails when you search online that are called Catcher in the Rye, because it's a pretty obvious thing to do with rye whiskey. And I said, no, I'll take it one further. I'll make one cachaça in the rye, because I have my Brazilian. It's basically rum. It's actually a little different. I explain this every time. Rum, the base for rum is molasses, which is boiled down sugarcane juice. It's boiled down and is much thicker and concentrated, and that's the usual base for rum. Cachaça, the base is just sugarcane juice. It's not boiled down, so it's quite similar to rum, but it has its own character because its base is a little bit different. And it's the most popular alcoholic beverage in Brazil, cachaça. So I'm going to make cachaça in the rye. And that's going to be cachaça whiskey. And I looked at a whole bunch of, there was a few variants of Catcher in the Rye, and none of them had rum. So my one, cachaça in the rye, is different. And I haven't tried it yet. So this is an experiment. So it's going to be cachaça whiskey, maraschino liqueur, and lemon juice, and probably just a squeeze of the sugar syrup, the agave syrup that I have. I'm going to try to make it. I didn't take Miss Foxification. You're spot on. If we green cities more, that would be a big thing. It would insulate buildings. It would bring the temperature down in cities, and it would make the what am I trying to say? It would make the buildings use less water as well. Fox, you think I should have cinnamon in it for another spice? I've got some cinnamon paste, like it's a cooking flavor for making cakes and stuff, and I have used it in beverages before. I could. I'm not completely sure why you want me to put cinnamon in, but I could. That goes, yeah, spiced rum is a good thing. All right, I'm going to pull some ingredients together. So first, I'm going to get my little tiki mug. Tiki mug. I'm going to put a big old block of ice in there to cool it down. Ooh. I've used up my ice cube trays. I'll have to remember to fill it up because, Friday night's cocktail night. I'm having one now. I'll probably have more than one tomorrow. All right, so I want whiskey. Jug of whiskey. Okay. I want my cocktail shaker too, of course. Where's my cachaça? That's there. Maraschino. I'm going to get all the components together. Some lemon juice. There's my lemon juice. There we go. My lemon juice. It's not fresh, it's bottled, but that's okay. That's my cocktail shaker. There it is. All right. I got everything I want. Great. So, let's give that. Yes, as this is Angry's Liquor Barn. I know, Fox, I know it seems utopian doing the green buildings, but it is actually more and more common. There's 1 or 2 buildings in Melbourne that have a lot of green on them, and it really is great insulation. If you want to do a mukbang night for a change, just eating the whole time, I do that. Be more likely to do drinking mukbang. Okay, just for you, Fox of Fate, I'm gonna. Where's my cinnamon? Cinnamon baking paste. A bit of flavor in. Okay. Cinnamon baking paste. See, this is for cooking, but because it's a paste, I can get it to dissolve, I think. All right, so let's get it on. Okay. So for the right part, the whiskey. Let's put some whiskey in. This is an experiment. I've never tried this, so I think it's going to work, though. I think it's going to work. All right. This is my cachaça. Brand name Canario. Premium pot still cachaça. Product of Brazil, bottled in Germany. Okay, that's a bit weird. So they've shipped it to Germany to be bottled. I'm not altogether sure why they do that, but what the hey? So some cachaça, which is a white spirit, as you'll notice. Be a nice colour. Put a little bit of the maraschino in as well, which is also a white spirit. Half shot of that. Okay. Bit of lemon juice, because a bit of lemon juice is always good. Bit of lemon juice. And I'm not sure if it'll need it, but I'm going to put, I've got my agave syrup here, just a squeeze of the agave syrup in. Oops, sounds like a fart. Ooh, that just reminds me of when I was sick last week. Ha ha! Oversharing. All right, I'm going to put a little bit of cinnamon paste in, just because Fox of Fate wanted me to. All right. Give it a bit of cinnamon flavor. That's a really nice cinnamon smell. That's probably going to work really well. He said, hopefully. All right, shaky, shaky, shaky. Particularly because I got that cinnamon paste in that. Want it to mix in quite well. Ooh, Miss Fox Fashion going to get a pizza. Nice. I had mac and cheese for dinner tonight. Courtesy of the good folk at Light and Easy. Shaky, 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 shaky. It's probably enough of that. Ooh. It burned off a few nostril hairs when I was smelling it. Probably should have filtered that. It's got little bits of cinnamon in it, but that's okay. It's a nice color. What's it look like? Oh, it looks even more orangey there. It's in real life, it's a bit of a bit more rose colored. I thought it would look more brown on the camera, but it's looking quite orange on there. Fox, if it works, you're brilliant. If it doesn't, never speak of this again. Okay. Huh. Overall, this is good. If we talk House of Light and Easy, not losing as much weight as I should because I'm not sticking to it. I know from experience, if I stick to Light and Easy, I do lose weight. I've been really slack with sticking to it, though. You're right, Musical Elevator. It is on camera. That is a little bit Donald Trump color. So, Dottie, you're listening while working in another tab. Those spat up. All right. The squirty sound made you think so. It was pretty. It gave me flashbacks, that noise, to the stomach virus I had last week. All right. It's pretty good. The different flavors are really washing across each other, which is quite nice. Because whiskey's a really strong taste and often dominates if you put it in a cocktail. But just the combination, the cachaça and the maraschino, the cinnamon, I think worked well, is good, and it's not dominated by anyone. Oh yeah, Left Wing. I'm sure Bill Maher would want to fat shame fat bastard me. That's okay. I do it to myself, so he doesn't need to. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, no, I'd give that. I should, you know what I should do? Because I'm always making these cocktails up or doing variants of cocktails. I should write them down and I should rate them. Like out of 10. Like I'd probably give this about a 7 out of 10. Like it's pretty good. You know, would recommend. Kashasha in the rye. I'd really like, God, every now and then I feel like I really want to experiment, like do refine a couple of recipes, just tweak them, like a little bit less of that, a little bit more of that, and see if I can taste the difference between the or even get some people over and do a few variations and get them to rate them, see if they can tell the difference between the variations on the theme. Because some variations are really obvious. Like in a live stream a couple of weeks ago, I was going like, even though I'm not a whiskey connoisseur, I have bourbon and rye whiskey and Irish whiskey and Scotch whiskey. And they all taste very different. They're like noticeably different. So yeah, when you're making a drink with whiskey, it's going to taste different if the base is bourbon or rye or Irish whiskey or Scotch. You like the Friendly Geordies Fatty McFuckhead stuff. I will be fascinated. I would be fascinated to see what happens with the Clive Palmer suing Friendly Geordies. It should get laughed out of court. It really should. Because, yeah, no, it was just commentary and mockery, and he didn't say anything extreme. That should get laughed at, but Australia's laws are so fucked, it's hard to be sure. Fox Effect, you want someone to go back and find the Taipan. I don't even remember when I did that. See, this is why we should write it down, because the Taipan was good, if I remember. And I don't even remember, I know, was it a rattlesnake? It was a rattlesnake, with the one that did a variation on. It was called a rattlesnake, wasn't it? See, maybe I can work it out. If I feel like it was a rattlesnake. Rattlesnake cocktail. I see, here we go. A rattlesnake is egg white, absinthe, bourbon, lemon juice, and sugar. That kind of sounds like what I made. I must have used something Australian in it to call it a Taipan. What would have I put in? What would have I put in to make it Australian? Just Bundaberg rum or something? I don't know. But I feel sure that was what I based the Taipan of. Ads, fuck, marry, kill, Palmer, Reinhardt, Donald Trump. I don't really want to say kill Clive Palmer because he's a bit handy with the lawsuits, but yeah. And, well, I guess, see, you've made it too easy because me being super heterosexual, I'm going to go fuck Gina Reinhardt. Hey, if I do a good job, she might throw a few dollars my way. I could take one for the team. And marry Donald Trump just for the divorce settlement because he'll cheat on me and I'll get a massive divorce settlement. So, yeah, kill Clive Palmer because he's a waste of fucking space. Fuck Gina Reinhardt because I'm shamelessly heterosexual. And, hey, you know, like I said, she might throw a few dollars my way if I do a good job. And marry Donald Trump just for the divorce settlement because he'll cheat on me. He doesn't deserve all this, is what I'm saying. He will cheat on me and I'll be heartbroken and take him to the cleaners and get an awesome divorce settlement, and then I'll write a tell-all book and make even more money. I'm not signing a non-disclosure agreement. No. I'm taking him to the cleaners, man. Not like his other foolish wives who sign non-disclosure agreements. I'm going to write a tell-all book. So yeah, definitely marry Donald Trump, because I'll make a lot of money out of that. That was actually easy. Surprisingly. It was surprisingly easy. Living Talks, you're going to see Friendly Geordie's live show next week. You think you should call it the Fatty McFuckhead tour? What I thought was interesting, because I don't see eye to eye with Friendly Geordies on everything. I do on a lot of things, but not on everything. But I noticed he did a what he called the video in defense of Greta Thunberg, and I thought that's pretty bold, because that's going to alienate a huge chunk of your bro fan base. Then I looked at it, and he doesn't just defend Greta Thunberg. He lays the boot into fuckwit Steven Crowder. And I was like, okay, more power, because he would have known that was going to alienate a big chunk of his bro fan base. And I just raced to see the comments to see who he pissed off. And there were quite a few of them. So more power to him doing something that he believed in, that he will have known was going to alienate his bro fan base. And sorry, hi, Justin. I don't think I said hello to you, and came and said hello. You reckon? Oh, who you saying makes good coin? Friendly Geordies? You reckon he makes 300,000 a year? I don't know. So, Fox, you went back. You reckon it was 7 months ago? Oh, when I mirrored appearance on Kevin Logan's channel. Yes, I always pick up a few new viewers when I do one with Kev. That time I did another one with Kevin. Actually, it's always fun talking to him. And it's weird because he works night shift, so we can actually find a coinciding time when we're both awake. Because that's the hardest. The UK, that little timeline, that's one of the hardest to match up with Australia. It's actually much easier to do it with Americans. But because Kevin works night shift a lot, often the wee hours of the morning is when he's just come home from work. So that's like his afternoon. And that equates to middle of the day for me. So it's actually, because he works night shift, it's comparatively easy to match up times. Evan Dorsch, you reckon Friendly Geordie's coining it in? Well, good luck to him if he is. I mean, good luck to him. See, there's a classic example. I don't see eye to eye with him on everything. In fact, a couple of things he said and done I would take exception to and get into a fight with him over. But it's like, I'm not bothered if he's making a living. Like, more power to him. He's pushing some fairly important messages out to his audience. Like I said, I don't agree with him on everything, but on core stuff, we're very similar. There's just a few things we diverge on, but on core stuff, we're very similar. People are different, and that's okay. So that's that. I'm fascinated now with Fox, what I did on the Taipan, because I'm figuring I did something Australian, to state the bleeding obvious. But if we think it was like right back around Anzac Day, I actually did an Anzac Day live stream. So I guess, do I want to find was it just after I did one with Kevin? I don't see one with Kevin around there. But there's the actual Anzac Day live stream, so I don't know if I did it then. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Of course, I don't know where you're getting these figures from, saying Isaac Butterfield earns 500,000. I'm not saying you're wrong, because I simply don't know. I know they both gig a lot, and that if you're popular and can fill venues, gigging can make you a lot of money. But yes, so I don't know what your source for their income is. Not refuting it. Just saying I don't know. I mean, like, okay, I just feel like for fun, I'll point out, here's depending on your point of view, it's like, I think it's a comparatively minor thing we diverge on. Some people might think it's a big thing. Oh, I don't know. He might think it's a big thing. For instance, I did see there was like a video podcast on YouTube. Friendly Geordies has been podcasting a bit with Neil Kolhatkar, who I've liked quite a lot of his stuff over the years too. And there was one where it was Friendly Geordies and Neil Kolhatkar and Isaac Butterfield all together. And they inevitably got to the, oh, you can't say that anymore. I can't joke about that. I'll get crucified if I say that. You know, there are some things I can't say. And that thing, the idea of, let's just be honest, privileged comedians who are doing quite well bemoaning, I can't say that, is fucking bullshit. And what bugs me is, instead of saying, oh, there's some things you just can't say because people will crucify you. Why that? Why not say, I know there's a bunch of stuff people used to use as cheap lines, really cruel, bigoted stereotypes in comedy. And these days, these people who are from these minorities who had these cruel stereotypes used against them for years, they have more of a voice. And now I can see that that's hurtful and destructive and just not funny to a lot of people. So I'm going to make the choice to not go for that cheap, bigoted stereotype because it's destructive to too many people. Sure, there's a certain audience who laps it up and would applaud me for saying that. But instead of saying, oh, I can't say that, why not saying, I acknowledge how fucked that is for so many people and how fucked it's been for so many years. So I'm making a conscious choice to not do that. I mean, why is it so hard to, instead of saying, oh, you just can't say that anymore, say, well, people should never have said that. It was evil and cruel and spiteful and actively hurt a lot of people. So I acknowledge that that's a nasty, vicious thing to say, and I'm not going to do it. It's like, what the fuck? Oh, God, Bill Burr and Dave Chappelle. Jesus, fuck. Okay, it's interesting. I watched the recent Dave Chappelle Netflix special, and it was obvious very early on he was just going to pick a fight. And I was surprised at the degree that he went to, like mocking child sexual abuse victims. So his standard abuse of trans people kind of paled into insignificance when he's just shit-talking children who were sexually abused. But it was clear at an early stage he'd made a decision to pick a fight. And it's just, to me, it was just so sad because it's not just that Dave Chappelle is funny and could still be really funny, but just goes for this dumb shit. But Dave Chappelle is intelligent and Dave Chappelle's compassionate. Like, he's not a bad person. He's an intelligent and compassionate person. He just has this massive blind spot and he aggressively refuses to address it. I mean, the way I try to explain is when he does the incredibly witty thing of like, it's basically, I don't understand trans people. From my perspective, they're just saying they're something they're not. So that's the same as me saying I'm something I'm not. And he did like his variation of that hilarious attack helicopter where he did this really fucking racist stereotype of Asian people. He's going, so a trans person saying they're trans is the same as me saying I'm Chinese. It's like, dude, that is so fucking ignorant. And it's, to me, it's like the sort of jokes I grew up in the country, like really racist jokes. What he says about trans people is the same as the jokes I grew up that were basically about black guy in a suit. Like when Dave Chappelle first got into trouble with trans people, he used a line, something, he's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be a live and let live guy and that person can do whatever they want. But he said something along the lines of, how much do I have to buy into their delusion? And I'm like, you're fucking ignorant. And that is the jokes I grew up about black guys in a suit. It's like, and there's those things like, it's like how the rednecks in the US were whipped up into hating Obama because the Republicans' Southern strategy since the 60s has been to tell angry, disenfranchised white people, mainly white guys, that the lowliest, worst off white person is better than the best off black person. So it's like the poorest white trash meth head is told he's better than the most educated, wealthiest, most accomplished black person, like i.e. the black president. And it's the same thing. It's saying like, well, yeah, the black guy in the suit's a delusion. And the particular joke that people used to always tell when I was growing up was, what do you call the black guy in a suit? The defendant. And it is. It's just, it's the same fucking joke. It's just swapped out black people for trans people. And the fact that Dave Chappelle aggressively refuses to address his own blind spot does my head in. Because like I said, it's not just that he is funny, and he's still funny. He had some very funny bits in his special. And he's not stupid. He's very intelligent. And he's not mean. Dave Chappelle is really compassionate. He just has this utterly absurd blind spot. Does my head in. Hi, Gecko, by the way. And the Bill Burr thing, I have 3 or 4 attempts to watch the Bill Burr special on Netflix because I've liked a lot of stuff Bill Burr has done in the past. So I've tried to watch it and I've had 4 failed attempts because it's just like, this is fucking terrible. And it's not, I'm offended. You're offended. It's like, oh my God, these jokes are so fucking bad. They're so hack. You're just asserting things as facts that aren't. And it's the laziest hack shit. And you might ask, why did I make multiple attempts to watch it? Because I've seen some people say that if you get into that special, Bill Burr's most recent Netflix special, he actually has some intelligent and nuanced takes. So I haven't been able to get to them because have I got 5 minutes into it, 10 minutes into it, and it's so fucking shit. He's just pandering to fuckwits. And it's like, oh my God, this shit is so fucking lazy. It's just lazy and not funny and just pandering to dickheads. And I was just like, oh no, I can't. Like, it's at least 3, possibly 4 times I've tried to watch it. Because Netflix does the fun thing that it remembers where you were. So I didn't have to start from the start each time. It picked up from where and it's just like, no, can't, no. Whereas I didn't have any trouble sitting through the Dave Chappelle one. It was at least going like, because when he, like I said, when he went to pick a fight, he fucking went there. He went way, way, way out there and went to the extremes. Whereas Bill Burr's not even going to the extremes. He's just doing this lazy hack shit. And it's just like, and like I said, I'm not turning off the Bill Burr thing because I'm offended and because he triggered me. I'm turning off because it's like, oh my God, this is so fucking lazy. This is just the worst hack shit. Oh my God. It's just this ego boosting stuff. It's like, oh, if I say this stuff that's pandering to the real fuckwits, they'll love me. And it's like, Jesus. Gecko, you did miss a lot of the stream. Still got about 20 minutes before I'm going to go to bed. Oh, okay, Mystery 09, you watched the whole Bill Burr thing, Paper Tiger. You got a male feminist. It's just lazy. What I saw was just lazy. And it's like, oh my fucking... It's like, you know, if you want... You're so easily offended. Go, no, I'm not offended by his routines. I just don't find it even mildly funny. It's just fucking lazy. Like if you want an offensive comedian, not that I'm his hugest fan, but I have watched some stuff Anthony Jeselnik has done. He's got a couple of Netflix specials. It's like, okay, yeah, like he is saying messed up shit. Like his whole thing is, I say messed up shit. And he's not doing the lazy, easy hack stuff that Bill Burr does in this latest. And Bill Burr hasn't been that lazy in the past because I've watched some of his older ones. They're hardly my favorite stuff, but they're not as bad as the new one. You know, Anthony Jeselnik is like super bad taste. But he puts his neck on the line because he fucking goes way out there into unacceptable territory and he owns it. And I've got way more time for that. And it's just there are so many other comedians that are just so much funnier. Oh my God. I'm just like these days, I'm the hugest Bo Burnham fan. I always liked him because I remember Bo Burnham from the early days of YouTube and I really liked him then. But the special he did for Netflix last year, Make Happy, if you haven't seen it, go out and watch it. It is just incredible and so funny. It's kind of like there's a lot of discussion about Hannah Gadsby's show Nanette, and some of the commentary, both pro and con, about Hannah Gadsby has been very stupid. Some of the commentary's been much better. In fact, again, so I remember I don't watch a lot of Joe Rogan, like from his podcast, but I did see a bit. It was Joe Rogan, and I forget the guy's name. I can probably find it on YouTube. But it's an older comedian, and like by older I mean my age, who's definitely regarded. He's not politically correct. I'll do a quick search on Joe Rogan, Hannah Gadsby. Who was the guy? This will probably bring it up on YouTube. No, it didn't bring him up instantly. There you go. I can't remember, but he's this bald guy who specializes in being gross. I can't remember his name, but I did see a little bit of this thing from a Joe Rogan podcast where they talked about Hannah Gadsby, and they were really, really reasoned. And they just said, oh, she's got some really funny lines. And they did point out they don't have a problem with Hannah Gadsby. They had a problem with some of the commentary surrounding Hannah Gadsby, because some of the commentary, particularly the pro Hannah Gadsby commentary, was dumb as shit. They just said, oh, she's got a couple of really good jokes in that show. And they said, people who say they're supporting her saying some dumb as shit things about it. But they were actually quite supportive of her. And what I personally would say about Nanette is it's a very, very good piece of theatre with some good jokes in it. It's funny because it won the best show in the Melbourne International Comedy Festival when it was on. And a friend of mine who's a bit of a jokey, like she's quite obsessive with the comedy world, she had thoughts like, namely, why did a show that was definitely not the funniest show in the Melbourne Comedy Festival, why did it win best show? Because shouldn't the best show be the funniest? And I think it is clear that Nanette won the best show in the comedy festival because people thought it was worthy. It absolutely was not the funniest show. It's a searing, amazing piece of theatre that has some really good jokes in it. But there's no way it was the funniest show at the Melbourne Comedy Festival. It just wasn't. And I got onto that because a big thing about Nanette is Hannah Gadsby's deconstructing comedy and her life in comedy and why she feels like she can't do that anymore. I got on it because I was talking about Bo Burnham, his last Netflix special, Make Happy. Like a lot of his stuff really deconstructs what he's doing when he does it. It's an incredible show. Like, it's technically brilliant. It's emotionally really powerful, and it's funny as fuck. It's way funnier than Nanette, put it that way. I think it's pretty much as powerful a piece of theatre. It's as groundbreaking with the way it deconstructs the performer, but it's much funnier. And that's not throwing shade on, well, not really throwing shade on Nanette. But to me, it's interesting. There are a lot of striking similarities between Nanette and Make Happy. A big difference is Make Happy is much funnier, like much funnier. Like it's not even close, honestly. But that's my recommendation to you. Go watch pretty much anything by Bo Burnham, but definitely his special from last year, Make Happy. I've watched the whole thing, I don't know, half a dozen times, and it still gets me. And the sort of climactic song, which you can just see it alone on YouTube, and it's great. I've watched that another dozen times. Oh, Gecko, you were having technical problems, but you rebooted. That's good. So yes, that's my little recommendation. Bo Burnham's Make Happy is for me, the absolute fucking pinnacle of a comedy show. It's amazing. Like structurally, it's incredible. Technically, the execution's amazing. It's thought-provoking. It's an emotional fucking roller coaster, and it's funny as hell. It is so funny. Very, very funny. Everyone goes, what do I think of Brock Lesnar? I think nothing of Brock Lesnar. He's a wrestler, right? I pay no attention to wrestling. I have no opinion of it. I don't know where Brock Lesnar fits into. Where's Mimsy? I was even asked, where's Mimsy? I don't know. I'm going to look, okay, because I'm not here for much longer. So I will quickly see if I can find Mimsy so she can come in and say hello. There you go. Mrs. Angry heard me saying it and brought Mimsy in here. Come here, Mimsy. Come here. Come and say hello to the people. Come here. What you doing? Come here. Come up on your tower. Come up and say hello to everyone. Come on, I'll give you a scratch. You like that? Yes. She's going to come. Come on, come up here. Nope, she's going to scratch on the scratching pole first. Gecko, today's your last day on the desktop support contract. Oh, right. You're changing jobs. Come on. Come up here. What are you doing, silly cat? Come up here. Come on. What are you doing? What are you doing? Come up here and I'll scratch you. You're silly. What are you doing? She's being silly. And do you think it's steroids when you think of Brock Lesnar? Yeah. Meow. Come here. Meow. What you doing? She's staying off camera. Come here. Meow. What are you doing? Yes. A little squeaky. Come on, up here. Come up. Oh, yeah. Thank you for digging the claws in. Thank you for digging the claws in. Come here. Ah. There's Mimsy. Mimsy says hello. Mimsy says hello. Come on. Here you go. That's a good one, Left Wing Doors. What do I think about the stereotypes of Western suburbs? Okay, I grew up in the country, so the stereotypes against me were even worse. But I try to bring it home to people. Like you get, over the years, there's been the different stereotypes of different ethnic groups, like the latest wave of migrants. Like, used to be the Irish. Then after the World War II with the European migrants, it was, the Italians and other Mediterraneans and Serbs and Croats. In the 70s, it was Vietnamese. More recently, it's been African migrants and refugees. Man, I'm old enough to remember when it was white kids from the western suburbs who were vilified as the scum of the earth. Late 70s, early 80s in particular, trash media were very big on vilifying white kids from the western suburbs, just making up all these ridiculous stories. Look at her butting her head against me. She wants lots of attention. So yeah, when people want to slag your African youths now, not that it usually works getting through to people, but it's like, no, this same bullshit, these same lies were said about white kids from the western suburbs in the late 70s and early 80s. And the big question I think talks why the western suburbs messed up. Well, the western suburbs are traditionally where poorer people live, and this is real. The reason if a city has western suburbs, why they tend to be less well off economically is a practical thing. If you live in the western suburbs and you're driving to work in the city, in the morning you're driving squinting into the sunrise, and in the afternoon you're driving home squinting into the sunset. That was actually why the western suburbs tend to be less well off economically, because the commute's shittier. It's as simple as that. There are obviously variations in some cities, but it's quite common for the western suburbs to be less well off economically. And it's because of the commute. If you live in the west and you drive into the city, in the morning you're driving into the sunrise, which sucks. And when you're going home, you're driving into the sunset, which sucks. So there's that. So western suburbs broadly tend to be economically less well off. If you live in Deer Park, I used to live in Sunshine, man. And my ex's family lived in St. Albans. So I understand what you're saying about Deer Park being a bit ugly. But yeah, and that is, of course, a problem in an area where you're suffering economic depression. You often have a higher rate of property crime as well, out of desperation. It's not good. It is not good. Oh, God, that's a tough question, Justin. What do you do when you need to resign from work but can't afford to? Do you need to really, really aggressively look for another job? I have been in that situation. I have quit a job for health reasons. Like, it was so stressful. Not only was my mental health suffering, I was right on the verge of my physical health collapsing because of the stress. And it was a tough call, but I had to quit and take some time off just for my health, because of how stressful a work environment was. And that only happened once, thankfully. Well, what was my package? It was this rather beautiful gold brick. It's a card game, Trumped Up Cards, which is basically Cards Against Humanity, but it's all themed around Donald Trump. So I'm going to have to get some people around for a party and maybe even record a video of us playing that. It's very cool. And I don't know who sent it to me. I hope whoever sent it to me lets me know, so I can thank them properly, because that's pretty damn cool. That is the coolest package I've got in quite a while. So I'll do that. What was that? Oh, God, okay. Why are you notifying me? I thought that was AIDSy for a second. It was just a game doing a notification. Okay, I'm going to switch off some notifications while we're talking. Notifications. Off. Most of these things are off, and I've let this one be on, and I need to switch it off. No, go away. All right. That won't trick me again. I thought that was AIDSy. I also have many memories of western suburbs. Like my car getting broken into when I was at the fucking laser tag place in Sunshine. That really pissed me off. My home getting broken into as well, just after I moved into it. That was pretty fucking freaky. So yes, I understand. I do understand what you're saying about the crime living in that part of the world, because yes, I had to deal with a few things myself. What about police shootouts? I've never been in a police shootout. Who's saying I've been in a police shootout? That's a dirty lie. Yeah, Justin, you want to get really hard into the job search. If you feel like you need to quit a job, particularly for your mental health, you are correct. I was going to say you're almost definitely correct, but I'll go one further. I'm confident if you're having that feeling, you are 100% correct. And look, for your own protection, maybe go real hard into the job search before you quit, because you don't want the additional stress of not having any money and looking for a job. But yeah, if you're getting that feeling, you need to quit, I'm confident you're actually right. So my advice is get heavily into the job searching before you quit. Do it before you quit. Yeah. Oh, the shootout in Western Sydney. Yes. Yet again, big fucking surprise. guy who was a domestic abuser also wanted to shoot people. It's like the Venn diagram of sort of mass shooters or wannabe mass shooters who are also have a record of domestic violence is a circle. It's pretty much universal, not just in the US but around the world. People who have, either gone on the mass shooting sprees or have wanted to, have planned to, are also, domestic violence perpetrators. This guy in question was a fucking lunatic who'd threatened and monstered his ex and took pot shots at a police station. He was shot dead by the cops. I don't think anyone was even injured. So he's maybe doing the suicide by cop thing. He was spraying bullets at a police station and they shot him dead. So, yeah. Environmental Coffee House. You got me just as I'm about to say good night. Justin, you got disability services want to access, can't help you answer quick. Yeah, get some support, dude. That would be my main thing. Make sure you do as much as possible as you can to get some support. And quit as soon as you can. Talk to the agency about what you need to do. I'm quite convinced if you've got this feeling you need to quit for your mental health, I'm convinced you're right, and you need to do it. But look after yourself. That's the main thing. Okay, what are you? You rode the bus into downtown Houston. It's always a toss-up. Do you use public transport or driving? Because I'm actually working in the suburbs at the moment, so I drive. If I'm working in the city, I use public transport. I don't drive into the city when I'm working in the city. But my current job, I'm working in the suburbs, so I drive to where that is. I could take public transport, but it would take me like an hour and a half or more, which is a big chunk of the day. And that's each way, hour and a half each way. Whereas all things being equal, a drive is about 40 minutes, which is not short, but it's a lot shorter than an hour and a half. So that's my preferred thing at the moment. But yeah, if I work in the city, I always use public transport. Because first, driving in the city is a nightmare. Second, the parking is stupidly expensive. Left Wing Dorks, I'm actually working in the West at the moment. In it's now apparently Australia's trendiest suburb, Footscray, which is the first place I lived when I moved to Melbourne 20 years ago, was Footscray, and it was not trendy then. Footscray was not trendy 20 years ago, but there was a recent survey that actually it was a worldwide thing about trendiest places to live, and Footscray was the highest ranked suburb in Australia, which is wild. Because like I said, that was the first place I lived when I moved to Melbourne 20 years ago, and not good. What street? I don't even remember if he's talking about where I lived. I don't even remember. It was really near the football ground, though. It was a side street that was actually really close to the Ted Whitten Oval. Which is a bit noisy when there was a football game on. But yeah, it was a bit of a tense neighborhood when I lived there 20 years ago. The job. Ballarat Road, which of course is very imprecise because Ballarat Road's very long. I'm near Ballarat Road. That's as much detail as I'm gonna live. So yeah, but I can park there, and like I said, it takes me about 40 minutes to drive there on a good day. On a bad day, it can be an hour. Because I diverted through the city on the way home. I was picking up young Ms. Angry because she was doing something in the city, and she asked if I could pick her up on the way home. And there's some rail lines closed, and there's these rail replacement buses that were fucking blocking all the roads. So just this little diversion, like 2 blocks, I'd normally just go straight down King Street, and I did this diversion 2 blocks to go to fucking Elizabeth Street, and that added 20 minutes. Just like going 2 blocks added 20 minutes to the trip, and because these fucking rail replacement buses that were just everywhere. So that was my trip home. But anyway, I'm going home. No, I'm home. I'm going to bed. So thank you, one and all, for joining me. It has, as always, been fabulous spending time with you. Really enjoy hanging out. Do it again soon. But until then, look after yourself, one and all, because, it's the big old mean world. You've got to look after yourselves. You've got to look after each other. So take care, one and all. I will see you again sometime. Hey, I'll probably do a TFU Friday or Saturday. See if I'm motivated after work to do it, or if I wait till Saturday to do it again. But yes, so you can always, if there's a particular thing you want me to talk about in the video, you can send me messages on the socials. Quite easy to find me on Twitter. But look after yourself, one and all. I hope you stay well, and I will say bye for now.